Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hey everyone, checking in on the market. So we had a big gap down day on Friday. That's coming after essentially a triple top, and that's coming after a triple top just under the all-time high. So a couple markets pulling back just under that all-time high, the tech sector included. We'll look at that towards the end here. But what I'm watching for ever since we got the weekly bull break of the equilibrium, that was all the way back in May. Ever since then, the bulls have had control of the weekly time frame. So I am waiting for the bears to prove something to me on the weekly time frame longer term. Otherwise, every single dip is looking to be bought by the bulls to remain in the weekly uptrend. So at this point, the weekly chart has not consolidated after 5 green weeks in a row. Technically it's a red week this past week, but still hardly any pullback at this point. That is a bearish reversal candlestick on the weekly time frame, but we still have daily higher lows. So what I'm continuing to watch for is our base of clear support, a triple low down at 279.16. We're going to look, can the bulls hold that level and form yet another daily higher low to keep the daily uptrend intact? If we cannot, we're going to have to see a lot of bear volume and a very bearish week to start this week, at least. And I do not anticipate that to happen. It's certainly possible, but I would expect to see a higher low form compared to 279. And if the bears are going to take over the daily chart, we're going to see the higher low, a lower high, unable to break the triple top, and then a loss of the higher lows. That would be signal number one for the bears. From that point, we zoom out to the weekly and we say, all right, the daily uptrend is lost, and now we're looking for the weekly pattern to form a higher low. And the only indication that we're going to get, in my opinion, that the weekly chart is in trouble for the bulls is if there is tons of bear volume behind a move on the daily chart. And we had some high bear volume Friday, but with that lower wick, there was also certainly some bulls buying the dip. At the end of the day, you could see some of those buys kick in, and we ended up with that lower wick. So again, very clearly, the daily uptrend has to be lost, signal number one, and then the weekly uptrend has to be lost, signal number two, in order to change the very bullish environment that we've been watching over the last few months. Looking at IWM, I'm also looking for clues here, because IWM was the first market to go bullish and stay very strong. We had an equilibrium here on the weekly as well. We broke early May, but we saw a lot faster ascent, and the gains were much bigger in IWM, running through all-time highs week after week. We hit all-time highs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row, and the other markets were lagging because of financial sector weakness. SPY was not as strong as IWM. But now IWM is looking a little bit toppy, and we could be watching for a potential head and shoulders pattern here, where this would be the left shoulder, this would be the head that did get some higher highs, not by much, but it was a higher high. This would be the right neckline, this is the left neckline, and this could be the right shoulder. So if we come back and break 164.07, that is a bearish reversal pattern on the daily time frame, and the weekly chart would lose the higher low pattern. So we would see a bear break on the daily and the weekly chart simultaneously, whereas for the other chart, SPY, that we just looked at, that setup is not there unless, again, it was a huge bear volume dump that took out all kinds of support levels at once. So I'm looking for potential clues. If IWM shifts this pattern and breaks bearish first, I'm going to be a little bit more keen on looking for clues that the bears are taking over the market overall, at least on the daily charts. So QQQ, here's this equilibrium. We were looking at the potential of a top fishing play with 182.93 resistance. We got up to 182.63, and it ended up being a really good top fishing play as we were unable to break to higher highs, and now we're pulling back and looking for a higher low. We're just going to look for a weekly or a daily equilibrium and a tightening range. The bulls obviously want that higher low to be found sooner to favor themselves for the bull break, and the bears want to see a pullback into the 178s, 177s to make it anybody's game in terms of which direction that would break. So at this point, the bulls are still certainly favored, and you could make the argument that this is the psychology of a cup and handle pattern, unable to break resistance, healthy brief consolidation, and then a breakout to all-time highs. Also going to be watching for that scenario. Monday and Tuesday is going to give us a lot of information in terms of the tech sector, which is more likely an equilibrium or the cup and handle kind of pattern with the breakout. Weekly chart for QQQ, 174.27 is the higher low on the weekly, and that is the higher low on the daily as well. VIX on the daily chart, getting some bull action the last 2 days, And we are looking at key resistance of 1453. Anything under that is just a lower high. If the bulls can break that level, they might be looking to shift things and change the daily trend a little bit more significantly. The weekly chart saw a nice long lower wick down around $10, and the bulls bought that lower wick. The question is, can they get follow through? Because we've seen lower wicks plenty in the past few weeks, just no follow through for the bulls to the upside. So the test to start this coming week is 1453. If the bulls can break that level, it will be the highest price we've seen in a month, and that will likely mean that SPY is potentially going to lose its daily higher low pattern. Checking in on these sectors, the financial sector was the reason for the majority of the weakness on Friday. Big gap down. Again, daily higher lows hold as long as 2768 holds. So just like we're looking at on SPY, we can look at on the individual sectors as well. In order to see a bearish break of this pattern, we are more likely than not going to set a daily higher low, lower high, and then lower low. But it's certainly still possible that we could test this 2768 support early this coming week. So just a question of whether this support is going to be tested or whether we bounce and set up the potential of a head and shoulders pattern. This would be the left shoulder, the head. If we form the higher low, we'll look for a right shoulder potential. And again, clues that I get or I look for are mostly volume based. You know, what's the volume like on a bounce? If it's low volume, declining bull volume, we're going to look for a potential right shoulder. If it's increasing bull volume, we're going to look to head back up and test the recent highs. Looking at the weekly time frame, topping out at the upper Bollinger Band a couple weeks in a row. And this weekly chart's a bit extended, so I would not be surprised to see the need for the bulls to establish a higher low on the weekly. Same thing with SPY. SPY is extended on the weekly, and forming a higher low would be normal and healthy. XLK, the tech sector, equilibrium, high, low, unable to break to a higher high, and now we're looking for a higher low. Pretty much everything that I said for QQQ, these charts are so similar that it stands for XLK as well, and weekly higher low is 7032. So that's where we stand heading into this coming week. Again, Monday and Tuesday are going to be very telling as to whether the bulls buy the dip or whether we head down to test key daily support levels, and we're going to be always watching what that volume looks like. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend. We'll see you tomorrow.